The date today is May 24th, 2010. This is Ellen Yonke, and I'm going to interview Ann Smith. And the location for this interview is the carriage house of the Kell House Museum. First, Ms. Smith, would you please give us your full name and tell us about your family's original arrival in Wichita Falls, a little of their experiences.
Well, my full name is Ann Myers, M-Y-E-R-S, Myers Smith, and the Myers family were pioneers in Clay County. I'm not sure what year they came to Clay County, but it was early, in the late 1800s or something. And then my grandparents were the W.J. Nolan family. They originally came from Kentucky and then settled in Holiday, and then came to Wichita Falls about the same time the Kemp and Kells were here, I think about the same years. And they built a house on 10th and Indiana, and on one corner, and down the other corner was the Kemp home. So they were all good friends, and let's see what else. Well, let me think
Well, tell us about your husband, Eichard Smith, and his family. Give us a little of that background, please.
Well, his family came to him. They were pioneers and came to Henrietta. And his grandfather, W.S. Eichard, is credited with bringing the first Hereford cattle west of the Mississippi. So they go way, way back in ranching and in that era. There were, I think, about 6 children in the Eichard family. They lived in Henrietta until the parents died. But there's just a lot of Eichard history way back. But
what brought them then to Wichita Falls?
It's really Henrietta. Mr. Smith married one of the Eichard women, so that's what brought her to Wichita Falls. But it was just, I think they first settled in, around, well, let me think. Well, the ranching, the cattle business is what brought them to this part of the country.
You have mentioned in the past some knowledge family stories in regard to the robbery at the bank and the subsequent deaths of the 2 cowboys. Would you tell us your family memories about those times and that particular event?
Well, I just remember my grandfather Myers telling about that. He was with the posse of men that chased the bank robbers. And he, for the longest time, we had I don't know what ever happened to it, but there was a medallion on the bridle of one of the robbers that he had. And he was in our family a long time, but I don't know where it is now. But that's about all I know about that.
Okay. Tell us about your relationship with the Kell family. When did you meet them, and who of them did you know and associate with closely?
Well, I just met them through Sybil Kell. And they were such good friends of my family, and the Donahues and the Bullington, Miss Bullington. But I married in 1947, and that's when Willie Mae was living here in the house. And I'll tell you one funny thing. I always remember what she gave me for a wedding present. I've been married, would have been 63 years this year, so it's a long time. I thought it was a beautiful tablecloth, but it wasn't. It was a top sheet. I was corrected, but I mentioned it to her one time. But I just remember, as a little girl, we moved to Wichita Falls in 1935, and my sister was born at home. People were born at home then. They went to the hospital, but not my mother. She got our old pediatrician out of retirement, and anyway, Sybil was the first one to come to see us. It's hard for me to say Sybil. I always, it's still Miss Cahoon. I can't call her really anything but Miss Cahoon. But and then we knew, of course, Leela Jane and Frank Kell, and they were about the same age as my sister, and we've always been friends.
Were you visiting, did you visit here in the Kell house?
No.
During those years? You
No,
did not
I
come?
did not.
Okay.
All I remember, the house, we always thought it was haunted or something because it was just covered with the landscaping. There were trees and you could hardly see the house. And you drive by and you really had a hard time seeing the house. I do remember that.
But at that time, only May was living here.
Yes.
How did you become acquainted with Frankie Strauss?
Well, through the family, but she and my Aunt Dorothy Nolan Forrester were best friends, and they always kept up with each other. So I always knew Frankie.
Now, Frankie is the daughter of one of the Kell cousins, Minnie Mae Kell Addis.
That's right.
And she visited here many times.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Tell us now, let's move to your involvement with the Wichita County Heritage Society. Do you recall the approximate year and who got you involved with the Heritage Society?
The approximate year, I guess, was sometime in the 80s, late 80s, and Jean Puckett, I think, is the one that really got me involved. And then Gayla Morris was head of, what year was she ahead of, you know? Well, we always laughed and said, if you get in Gayla's web, you're caught and you can't get out. Well, anyway, we got really involved. One other little funny thing I will say, my mother dated Anderson Kemp, which was the son of the Kemps. So that family's all put together.
That is interesting. Yeah. So, what projects did you work on for the Heritage Society when you got in Gayla's web?
Well, let's see. Anything that came along, we were involved. I guess I became a member of the exhibits committee, and so we were always working on that.
When did you become interested in the Holt Hotel project? Tell us about the beginnings of that.
Okay, well, you might remember in the paper there was a lot written about downtown by Ted Buzz. And one Sunday morning I read all this and I just thought, this building cannot be torn down. Something's got to be done about it. So I got in touch with Dick Bundy, and he said, well, let's get in touch with Dave Clark. And then there was a Stephanie Dugan that Dave Clark had worked with on city projects before. So we got together, we called ourselves the Dream Team, because each one of us had our special dream about what could be done with the Holt. And we met, and I agreed to try to line up people that they could go see. I didn't make the pitch about the whole thing, but I did make a lot of contacts with foundations and different people in town, and usually Dave Clark went with me, and was kind of the spokesman. And I think the first one we went to was the Pretty Foundation, and they were Mr. Pretty he didn't say one way or the other, but we met with them, and they ended up giving us the largest amount that they'd ever given any project. But it just started there. I always said it was like a little ball that started rolling, and it just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And we'd have these meetings, and there was so much complication with the funding and how it was all worked out. But we worked diligently about, I guess, 4 years. And but we all said it's just a dream. We couldn't stand the thought of that building being torn down.
It is a gift that you and those people you mentioned have given to this city that's going to live for us for a long time. And we thank you for it.
Yeah, thank you.
What project do you see yourself being interested in next?
Well, I tell you, when you're almost 85, you're kind of on the downside of big projects. I'll just go along with whatever comes along, but I'm not going to get myself involved. Really.
Do you have any final comments or thoughts about the Kells, the Kemps, any wonderful stories you'd like to share about Kell House, the Holt, the Heritage Society, or either of those families, any of those families?
Well, since I was really so much younger, then I don't have any stories about the Kells or the Kemps other than what we all know. And of course, when I got involved in the Holt, that was my focus for years, and we just worked so hard on that. And I'll have to say, we had there was one thing that I felt like we were through, and that was, and I kept fighting for it, were awnings for the building, because the original building had awnings. So Ken Van Lowe agreed to try to raise the money, and we got the awnings up. So I thought, well, we've done it then. So
A completed project.
And now that it's full, it is full, and then the downstairs is full. It has businesses in it. So the project is complete. It did for downtown what we hoped it would do. Stir up people to do something, and other things have come in since then.
It was a remarkable project, and you have been a wonderful addition for the city and for the Wichita County Heritage, and we thank you very much.
Thank you.